I tried to record the first meeting, but I've never used the Zoom meeting recording, so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how it'll work or not. My previous way of recording, it uses my camera's microphone to, overlay on the video, which is fine. Like, you can hear me fine. But then when other people talk, it's like really muffled because my speakers are tiny. So I'm wondering how Zoom's going to work. Hopefully better. I don't even know if I'm. Okay, yeah. I am the leader. I left and came back, so it was a little goofy. So today, Carl is going to be popping in to talk to all of us. Okay, we have most people here. Yeah, Carl's going to be coming in to talk to us about lab fees and renting equipment. So when he shows up, I think at 4:30 or so, I'll give it over to him. That shouldn't take too long, but because he is coming in to talk for a little bit, it definitely pushed my meeting time back, or like how much we got through back. So we're not going to get through all of the Photoshop tutorial today, and then we'll finish it off on Wednesday before we have our kind of work session. Somebody said that I got a confirmation that the quiz system's working. Somebody was able to take it fine. So remember to take that today. You got to take it before the end of the day. And on Wednesday, we'll have one as well. I've never had two quizzes back to back, so I apologize, but the rest of the semester should be off and running correctly.
Yeah, when I checked, I just took it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 instances of it.
Of quiz 0?
Yeah, I think so.
Crap. Let's see. My mouse is like open up. Well, under assessments, there's only one that I see. There might have been 2 announcements, maybe? I don't know. I'm not too savvy. But it only shows one assessment on here for me. So, I don't know. Hopefully you've taken it. I'll figure it out as we go. We'll see what happens. So yeah, we're going to be diving into Photoshop first, and then once Carl comes in, we will take a break and listen in to what he has to say. Everyone should have had Photoshop downloaded and installed before today and have opened it, hopefully. Sometimes it requires, updating. We are going to need the exercise page open. Exercise 1. And on here, these are just examples of other students. Nothing particularly like super amazing, but just showing you like the versatility of just like the very bare minimum stuff that we are playing with today. And that's the goal, is to really just be constrained with these. I have 4 just old, stupid, dumb, like thumbnail images, and you're going to utilize those to just whip up something, right? So due to like, restrictions, you always have different outcomes. So first thing you guys are going to do is head to this page, come down, and save all of these images. Right click, save as. I would prefer if you guys save them to, make a folder on your computer, on your desktop. For the class, if you already don't have a class folder, and then, make an exercise folder and put everything in there. Exercise 1. If you're not one to organize like that, should start doing it now. As we proceed with the semester, files will get more complicated, and file structures. So I've had a lot of people in the past lose stuff, misplace files, that sort of thing. It's really a good time to make sure you're organizing well, but then if you're having confusion on how, where things are, I'm here to help you. So I already have them all saved, so I should be good to go. Brought some snacks for when Carl was talking. I didn't really eat lunch today. So I'm just going to kind of wing this based on what I just did. I've got most of this down in my mind already. So we're going to need Photoshop open. I'm going to launch that bad boy. Week 3, we're finally using a program. So if you guys are ever bored, you have this subscribed. If you want to just play around with Photoshop, just, do another project for a friend or family or whatever, doodle. A cool thing to do, you could always do like YouTube tutorials, but they do actually have a learning tab right here on the splash page. And that has a bunch of different demos and probably videos and stuff to check out content for. So that could be helpful. We're just going to create new. And within the new document tab here, pop up, there's going to be a lot of presets that are here, just like any other program. However, depending on, no matter what you have like pre-selected, you can just go over to the side and customize this to be whatever you want. And then that'll default, it'll ignore all the stuff on the left. But for sake of easiness here, if we go to web, this web minimum is what I specified to use for today. And you know what? Before I just realized, before I get too far into this, does anybody have a Mac computer that doesn't have a second display? Like if you have a laptop with just one display. Chat. Me. Okay, my other class, somehow, surprisingly, everyone that had a Mac had 2 displays. Yeah, which is really weird. Yeah, because a lot of you only have the one with a Mac. That's like what I would have if I was a student. So the conundrum here is that for Photoshop, PC users somehow have the ability at full screening Photoshop, whereas on a Mac it doesn't. You can't. So because you can't full screen it, you can't do like side-by-side windows. That being said, I'm going to try and align my windows so that it's smaller. Therefore, you guys can have like the zoom window on the side of Photoshop, if that makes sense, you know? So I'm gonna get that set, and then if you guys, if that doesn't seem good enough, like let me know. Basically, come on, mouse. Try to get it towards the middle. So if I keep it here, you know, you could shrink your window and then zoom in on the zoom or whatever, you know, rearrange your documents, the document windows, whatever you want to call them. And then this way, if I stay constrained to that spot, you should have more real estate to see in Photoshop. Yeah, I think, hopefully. So continuing on, we're gonna just make sure we have 72 for our resolution because we're working on a screen, we're never printing. This is just for practice. RGB color mode, 8-bit. We're always gonna be in RGB for everything this semester. The background contents, this is kind of a trolling feature. They used to have it where a white background actually makes a background that's white, but now it only gives you the illusion of a white background, and the background on the layer is actually transparent. So to avoid that confusion, I want you guys just to start with transparent. Therefore, we will kind of see like the traditional new window, and then we can go from there. In color profile, I want you guys just to select Adobe RGB. And we're going to talk about that again in a second. And let's hit create. And we should see like this checkered pattern canvas, right? To follow up, we're going to save in a second, but to follow up with the color, I know we're not really focusing on color. This is going to be just the bare bones, but oh yeah, Alyssa, you were supposed to download it like a week ago. So you'll just have to follow along, and I'm saving this video hopefully, so hopefully I'll have that to use as well. So yeah, color theory isn't a huge deal, but for our purposes, we're going to be using multiple Adobe programs, and we're all working on the same computer. And so I figure just keeping the standard of Adobe RGB is kind of nice. So that being said, there's a secondary option in Photoshop that's kind of goofy. So I want you guys to walk through this so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you go to File, Save As, at the bottom, you should see Embed Color Profile. For all of you, by default, it probably will say like sRGB, right? Does it say sRGB with Embedded Color Profile? No, yes, no, some people, no. I mean, it should be Adobe RGB. Mine does, right. So it's kind of weird. Adobe has like a sub-management system. So we're gonna hit cancel real quick. I just wanna show you guys where this is at. It's under Edit. If you go down to Color Settings, this is where you can like automatically have Photoshop set presets to. Whenever you're gonna do something, it'll default to these. So right here, if you have that sRGB for RGB, right, we selected RGB color mode, but what is the working color space for RGB? Well, it's whatever you set. So if you just change it to RGB, Adobe RGB, and this is similar construct for if you're working with CMYK. But now if we hit OK, there's also a sign color profile. That should be set to working RGB, Adobe RGB, or you can change it. So that way now when we go to save as, ideally it would say Adobe RGB. Again, it doesn't matter. Even for your projects, it doesn't matter. The whole point here is that you're working on the same computer, the same screen. This way the same colors are always going to be we're using the same stuff. So we're going to go ahead and save this. Just save it as like, you know, exercise 1. Put it in that folder right next to your other images. And hit save. I already have one there. And we want to make sure we're saving layers. This is the same menu that you would also like change your format from a Photoshop document to like any other document, which is kind of weird because Illustrator isn't this way. There's like save as or export. It's kind of goofy. I'm gonna hit save. And then the second dialog box, I left this on to show you guys. You always want it to be maximum compatibility. So just leave that checked, and then if you hit do not check again, do not show again, that'll never pop up. Right. So I'm just gonna give you guys a brief overview of Photoshop, the way it's laid out, because I find like the most struggle that I always have learning something new is getting oriented to it. So if you're new to Photoshop or you're not super savvy, this stuff's probably going to give you a nice orientation. So we are going to be using different menu options up here quite a bit, and I'll go over those one at a time. But aside from that, we have kind of like 3 main component areas, and I could break them down for you guys. Oh, and you know what I forgot? I forgot I was going to give like a Mac demo, but I'm not going to do that now. I forgot, but from other class too. I guess if you guys are interested in like a Mac demo, just email me and I can, you know, deal with it later if people have an interest. This left side has all of the various tools that you have to your access here in this program. If you hover on them, it'll give you the names. Any of them, which is most of them, they have a little arrow at the bottom right corner is kind of suggestive that there is an additional tool. So if you click and hold, you'll find additional tools. And then you can customize how the toolbar is laid out, blah, blah, blah. There's colors down here at the bottom. And then the second main component is up here at the top under the menu. This is the options bar, options panel. As you select different tools, the options panel updates reflecting the different options that you have with that tool. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, as of right now, is, or at least that's what mine is. Yours should be like this, unless you've already changed it. The right side is usually where all of these different little sub-windows are. And I like to just call these panels, window panels. And reason being is that under the window tab, if you click that, you'll notice that all of these other options on here, you could turn on. So anything that has a check mark right now, say like adjustments, we already have that tab open. History is checked. we have history open. Layers, we have layers open. So, and some of those are hidden. They're under a separate hidden tab, right? And this brings me to my next. So these are the main three categories, right? Left side of the screen, the top, and the right. All of these tabs are adjustable in that they could be brought to different areas. They could be put in between other areas. You just drag and hover. You can drag them outside and have them be their own windows. You know, and to that point, you can also, if you go up to Window again and go to Workspace, here you'll see that Workspace, mine's set to Essentials by default. Everyone's is, unless they've changed it. You could actually hit Reset Essentials if you wanted to always go back to that standard layout. And as you go along, if you use Photoshop a lot and you decide, oh, you know what, I like things a different way, but every time you go to work on a new machine or Photoshop updates or something and everything goes back to default, you can save these different workspaces of how your tools are organized, and then it's a preset, right? And this workspace options available in all of the Adobe programs. So for this project, we basically can just leave it set for the essentials. When we get to Illustrator, we'll be toggling it to like a different preset because there's more tools that are already open for us. Anybody have any preliminary questions going in? Okay. We are going to dive in, and we'll probably get like one step in and then Carl will show up, because that's just how life goes. First thing we're going to do, which we can start, we'll probably not get through the whole part, is we're not going to bring in any images. We're going to use just the tools to generate a background. All right. And this is going to give us a general continuation of like how Photoshop is situated, like how layers work to build up an image. A couple of really essential components too that get you prepped for like continually bringing in other content. So you'll always want to have the layers open and being shown. You know, you can reorganize. For today's class, we really only need layers open, maybe history if you want that, maybe properties. Everything else can be closed. That's why you see like a slim panel on the side. So like if there's, you know, another tab like this, yeah, you could hit the little arrow to collapse it, but it's still taking up space. So I just went through and like consolidated things so that I have more real estate for my screen for, you know, working on stuff. Not that it matters because I'm only using part of my screen, but I'm hoping this helps for people that don't, you know, don't have multiple monitors on a Mac. Okay, so first thing I want us to do is take a look down here in the layers panel. This little preview is showing you that we have nothing in there. These checkered patterns literally are illustrating transparency as the background of the Photoshop window. We want to get just a white color back there to start, and then we're going to expand upon the white. So to begin with, we're just going to click this little half moon kind of shape at the bottom here. And the top option is selecting a solid color. And we want to select the white in the top left, like click and drag and hit OK. And now we will have white. So the image preview changes, but it's actually kind of weird. I'm not really sure why this happens in this newer version of Photoshop. I think there's just newer features that I'm not familiar with. For our purposes, we don't need to have like, it created a layer mask for us, which we will talk about on Wednesday to follow our demo today. So we don't need it. We'll go ahead and just right click on this right side, this white box on the right, and hit delete. And then right now we just have this color fill. However, the next step we need to do, we don't have the ability to do it, it's grayed out. So what we need to first do is to convert this white color into white pixels. And you can see at the bottom of this preview, there's like a slider. So it's kind of indicating that it's not actually just pixels. We'll see more examples of that in a minute, but first we need to just right click on this color fill one and we'll rasterize it. And by rasterizing, we're converting that to pixels. And you can see that now that's just all white. It's all white color. And I want you guys to double click on that name, color fill one, and we'll just name it background. And as you go and make layers, as you know, in all these programs, you want to be like right off the bat, just naming them from the start. It gets really easy and muddled as you go along if you don't keep things ordered.
Why are we rasterizing so early?
Rasterizing a color?
Yeah, wouldn't it be better to keep it as like a smart object?
Well, we can't, based on the example that we're going to be working with here, we can't change it from that smart object.
Okay.
Yeah. So like as I just mentioned before, if it's a smart object and I go to image adjustments, I want to change the hue saturation. I can't. So I'm gonna put that back. So now once we have that set, we can go ahead and make sure it's selected, right? And we'll go to image adjustments and back to that hue saturation I just mentioned. And preview is always checked on by default in all these windows, which is helpful. But if your computer is really slow or old, some of these more intense previews could be bogging your system down. So you can always turn it off if you want. But for this purpose, we want to change this color from white. And we could have just done that like to begin with when we made a new color. But I'm just showing you guys another way down through menu options, how to like start altering things. So if we hit colorize and we bring this lightness down, we could then choose a hue and saturation. So you can kind of pick just whatever color you like. Hit OK. And again, you know, we could have just done that right when we said new color. But I'm bringing up image adjustments because this is a pretty important place for you guys to get familiarized with of like what features are here. And in a minute, I'll let you have some time once Carl shows up to play around with this. Second thing, I normally at this point want you guys to go through and try to find a way at instilling some detail instead of just color, right? How do you manipulate color from color? Like you got to have something else there, right? Some kind of shadow or contrasting elements or something. So, but because we're kind of crunched for today, I'm just going to show you the first one you should select just to make it easy. Go to filter at the top, and we're going to go down to noise, and we're going to add noise. Filter, add noise. And here, it doesn't really matter what you choose as long as you don't have like something too low. And just hit OK. So now we have like a texture here. We can start manipulating this content. And so I'll let you guys just play around with this probably about until Carl shows up. Just play around and form a background. And there's two places you can be doing this. Number one, and I want to also specify, you shouldn't be bringing in other images yet. And I just want you working on this one layer. So just like getting some experience and playing around here. First options are through the filter again. Just keep exploring these different options here. See what they do. Some of them might not do what you want. You know, you could always go to Edit, Undo, or Command Z. We'll talk more about shortcut keys here in a bit. But yeah, go through different filters, apply things, try it, add new filters, see, like compound them one after another, right? Then once you have something kind of different going, interesting, then you can go back to the image adjustments and kind of play some more with color, increase contrast, that sort of thing, right? So, so yeah, I just play around with that for like 5 minutes, and if Carl's not here by then we'll keep on going.
I just have a really quick question. When you're doing the curve graphs, how did you add a point?
Joel, I can't quite hear you. Say that again.
When you added, like when you were doing the RGB curves for like the color, like how did you add another point on the graph, or were you just playing around with like one point?
No, you just hover over. You just hover over the line, and it'll give you like a crosshairs.
So you did.
And then you could add a point. You click and drag.
Can you add multiple points or just one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could keep adding points. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's about 5 minutes. I'm gonna cheat here and just do something a little bit more exciting. Okay, so after you guys have just some kind of background going, we're gonna go ahead and keep going with placing an image. And I wanna just note that there's 2 different ways to place images now in Photoshop. And you guys are going to just stick with placing embedded, literally meaning that Photoshop is copying the image from the original destination and saving the contents in the Photoshop document. If you did place linked and ever, changed, like moved that file or renamed that file, Photoshop would have a problem reading it. I'm sure a lot of you have been in that situation for one reason or another. So this is larger file size technically, but we're just going to be doing that. Place embedded. I'm going to start out with this face dude. All right. And first thing we should notice is that it's pretty small on our screen, right? And reason being is that every image that you open in Photoshop is going to open as large as it can to be at its like native resolution. So if it were to open full screen, or all the way to the top and bottom or left and right, that would mean that it probably is even larger than your canvas. But for this sake here, we want to make this bigger, and we could do so right here because we're still placing this. We see these like crosshairs over the image. So we just can hover over a corner and click and drag. That should drag it out. You can click on any corners. If you hover near a corner, you get these rotation arrows. Or you can hover on this or click and drag on the side. I will also note that if you hold Option or Control or Shift, I guess Control actually just gives you presets, but Option, when you click and drag it, it's going to change the way in which it scales. It'll scale from the middle instead of the corner. If you hold Shift, it'll scale unevenly, right? And if you could do like Shift and Option, it'll scale unevenly from the center. Or one of my favorites, this is like a Photoshop exclusive. If you hover over a corner while using the Command key, I'm not sure what all these are on PC. You could actually skew the image, right? So you're actually like changing it on multiple planes at the same time. Is that the right way to say it? Multiple planes? I don't know. Anyway, once you get it near, kind of larger on the screen, go ahead and hit Enter, and then that'll place the image for us. Okay. Next thing I will note is that you can now use the keyboard for zooming in and zooming out. I would recommend doing this over using, there is a zoom tool, but like, why switch to a different tool when you don't need to? On a Mac, it's just Command plus minus. I think it's Control plus minus on PC. And you can zoom in or out, right, all the way into like the smallest level of pixels. Command 0 will center the image within your current window size. So that can be helpful. So this next step here, I want us to zoom in on his face until the pixels separate. So at some point when you're zooming in, you'll see the pixels like have a white outline around them. If you have that, I'd say you went too far, zoom out one. This way is like the furthest we can go in, basically, right? And reason why I want you to zoom in is that we're gonna be selecting his face. And by zooming in, you have a little bit like more detail. So when you do zoom in, if you want to move around, you just hold the space bar. You get a little hand, and then that hand allows you to drag. I mean, it's the same thing as like using the scroll wheel. If you have like a Mac mouse, you can go any direction, but my wheel is always like clunky, like dirty, you know, never can stay clean enough where it's always skipping or it's not very smooth. So so on the tutorial, it lists using the pen tool and going through and having the pen tool to make a selection. First, you use the pen tool to make, what do you call it? I never use it, so I'm like blanking. Oh, pen tool. A path. So you can make a path. Interesting thing about a path is that paths can be saved. So if you were to have the need to have a selection the same way every time, you could make a path for it, and then every time you need that selection, you already have it kind of preset. So like an example would be the shape of this face, right? If you ignored like the actual content of the face and just seen the symbol for what it is, like you can make a path out of that outline, out of that symbol. I don't really foresee a lot of people using it. To me, it seems a little clunkier. When we get to Illustrator, like the pen tool is key. But for Photoshop, I mean, we have all these other ways to be selecting. So I'm just going to be covering those for today. And if you want the stuff on the pen tool, it's there. So first thing we're going to try, I don't know if the lasso tool is going to work here. It kind of can. We could try it. Oh, my internet is unstable. I think I see you guys moving still. Oh yeah, that was, I think I already said that in the email.
Sorry, I think you cut out for a second, at least.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah.
It said I had a message. Yeah, sorry, hopefully that'll go away after I get my new router installed tomorrow. I wasn't gonna buy a crappy one at a store. It was really dumb. Amazon's taking over the world. So let's use this lasso tool to start with. This is it'll be a little funky, I think, but it's an interesting way of doing it. We could do like a click and then let go and then move our mouse and then click again. But with the lasso tool, it'll allow for like a fluid motion. And what's gonna be weird is that we're zoomed in. So I think it's gonna be interesting to try. So if you have the lasso tool, and we just start at like one of the sides of his face, we're gonna go around his face and like select just his face, not his hair and things. So we're gonna click down once, and then we're gonna hold down the entire time, right? So if you mess up, it's not a big deal. We can tweak it later. So you're just gonna drag along, and then once you get towards the end of the screen, don't try to go further. I want you to hold the space bar and then move this all the way up to about the top, and then you should be able to keep continuing downward. I mean, at some point you might have to like lift your mouse and move it while you're holding the space bar, right? But I guess the purpose here isn't to be perfect. It's just to try and get a quick selection. And again, like I said, if you mess up, we're gonna talk about it after. So I'll purposefully mess up just so you guys can see what I mean. So I'll wait a second till you guys get through that. So as you can see on mine, I clearly don't have the whole head selected. I missed a big chunk, right? Interesting thing about selections is once they're formed, you can see like this scrolling marquee, like white and black line. Oh, Carl, he's here. Yep. Cool. I have snacks prepared for you, Carl. Snacks for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't eat lunch today. Yeah, so we can all pause for a few minutes. Carl's gonna give us some knowledge, and then we'll resume with our demo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carl Lee. I'm the tech director in Media Study. Here today to talk to you about the lab fee and equipment and lab access, and see if you guys have any questions about it. If you weren't aware, every Media Study production class is charged a lab fee. And a production class is any class where you're sort of making projects, video or a web-based thing using equipment or computers or the software that we have, as opposed to, say, a history or a theory or analysis class where it's, you're mainly writing papers or responses. So media study production classes are charged a lab fee. It's billed to your account. You see it come up as DMS lab fee. And for this class, it's $114. For film and video production classes, they're more, it's $194. Computational media classes are $184. And so that the lab fee budget that the department collects goes towards the purchase of all the equipment, computers, software that we have available to you to access, to borrow, etc. Also supplies and repairs and things like that. I had thought actually this class this is a strange year, obviously, and it seemed like most people in this class were going to be fully remote. So we are giving the option of, if you are going to be fully remote where you're not accessing the labs in media study or borrowing equipment, that we will refund the lab fee fully. But then we're also giving the option of, if you want to use the labs only, we'll give you a partial refund. So it would be $53 refund. So $61 to use the labs only. And if you want to only use the equipment, it's $55. So I get the sense that most of this class will be fully remote. But if you think you may need the labs or need the equipment, please get in touch with Bernard, and he'll compile a list and send it to me, and I will make the appropriate adjustments. And so if that can be done, like in the next few days, couple days, that would be great, because we need to take care of this soon. partly because you are by default being charged a lab fee, which if I know that you're not going to, if I know that you're going to be fully remote, I can remove the lab fee sooner rather than later, and ideally before they run the next billing cycle, which is soon. So please let Bernard know what you would like to do. And I'll just repeat: full refund, so no equipment or lab access. Equipment access only, no, you don't need the labs. That would be $55. So the refund would be $53, sorry, the refund would be $61. Or you want to access the labs only, no equipment, that would be $61, so you'd be refunded $53. Okay. Are there any questions? I will mention that, so the labs we have available are, there's several labs. So 242 is a Windows only lab. There's nine machines in there. They're very fast computers. It's actually satisfying to use those computers if you like Windows. Then in lab 244 is a Mac lab, and 246 is also a Mac lab. Normally we have 22 computers in each of those rooms, but this year we've removed furniture and computers, so there are 9 in each of those labs. 244 and 242, we have open lab hours, so you can actually just come in and use it anytime there's not a class in there during business hours. So business hours is like, 10 to 5 Monday through Wednesday. And I'll post those hours soon. 246 is, you can reserve time in there if you have lab access through the booking site, and you can check out a key. So somebody's vacuuming. So with 246, you do need to be paying the lab access fee, but then you do get access to it after hours. I'll mention that later. So you do, in order to access that lab after hours, you reserve time, but then you also have to check out a key from the equipment room during equipment room open hours, which is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Okay. Bernard, would it be useful to walk through the checkout site? I probably should do that just in case some people want to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll go through it. I'll try and be quick about it. Are there questions so far?
I have a
I
question.
just have,
Yes.
Do you have some kind of list or something of what we have access to from the equipment room based on grade level?
Oh, it's actually kind of based on the course pool of equipment. I don't have one easily at hand, and that's actually something I should write up. It does, changes somewhat every year, but I can tell you for this class, there's pretty much all of the microphones and audio recorders except for the wireless lavaliers and the sound devices recorder is available. You do have access to basic level cameras and camcorders. So there's a few DSLRs you can use and the Canon XA10s. Pretty much all the tripods except for these Sachtler tripods. The basic level lighting kits if you need. I mean, there's projectors and things like that you would have access to if you need. Yeah, I don't know. If you had specific questions, I could try and answer those as well. Um, other questions? So I just posted into the chat the link to the Media Studies checkout booking site. So if you go to that, you can, everyone can log in there, even if you're not going to use equipment or labs. You can log in and see how it works, and you can see the equipment. You just can't actually add anything to your basket. Am I able to share my screen? Can you let me share the screen, Mark?
Let's see. Well, this is the first day I'm using Zoom.
I think there's something under share screen where that button at the bottom where it says allow anyone can share screen or something. All participants.
All participants. Okay, I think you should be able to now.
Yeah, that worked.
Great.
So you should see the Connect2 site. Connect2 is the name of the software. Everyone see that? It's a website at cast-dmsreserve.ksat.buffalo.edu. So that's the booking site. This will look a little different from yours just because I'm an admin, so you won't see these menu items up here. But you can book equipment. You can also go to the link up here. You can book time in rooms. You won't see media library. There's information here about our open hours. I will just mention that I may reduce the open hours depending on demand. I'll definitely send out an announcement about that. Our phone number is here as well. And then I'll also mention, you have access to media study equipment, as long as you're paying a lab fee within that semester. So if next semester you don't take any production classes and you're not paying a lab fee, you no longer have access to the media study equipment. So you should be aware of that. But I want to point out that the UB library itself has equipment loans, in case you weren't aware. And this is their site. And they have some, decent equipment as well. And that's available to any UB student. And there's no additional fee or anything like that. I think we're talking about this. I think it comes out of the technology fee that you guys pay. Okay. So to book equipment, click on book equipment. You won't see this. You'll come to this window, and it's pretty straightforward. You can see what's available. There's subcategories that you can search through. These are, there's lots of different stuff, and you add items to your basket. So say I'll search for Canon XA10, which is a camera, and that's a camcorder that I want. You can add it to the basket. I'm going to go back to all categories. You can get audio recorder. Let's see what that brings up. So different types of audio recorders. This is one you won't have access to, but the Tascams you will. Anyway, so it's pretty obvious. You add it to your basket. You can look at your basket, and then when you've got everything you want added, you can create a booking, and then this is a window where it allows you to decide what time you want to pick up and what time you're going to return. So if you click in there, it'll say, okay, Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and then return. Let's return the next day at 2, update, and it'll say, yes, it's available. You can do that. If it's not available, you'll see, red bars preventing you from choosing those time periods. Click next. You do want to have to put in this information. Digital, Galecki, and your phone number. This is if you want to specify anything that you can't specify through the fields, and click next. You want to read through the terms and conditions. The main thing is you are financially responsible for any equipment that you borrow from the equipment room. So whether you lose it, gets dropped, or it's stolen, you are responsible for the cost of replacement or repair. So there's some expensive equipment. Just be responsible with it, be smart, and just take good care of it, because you will be on the hook for that if anything happens to it. 3 infractions, if you're late more than three times, or you are missing, something, that counts as an infraction. Your access is suspended for 2 weeks. If continues after that, your access is suspended for the balance of the semester. Very important, when you check equipment out, it's your responsibility, once we scan it out to you, to check through the kit, make sure everything's there that's supposed to be there. And let us know if something's missing, then we'll know you're not responsible for it, or we'll get a replacement. Okay, you click on that to say that you've read the terms and conditions. You go to next, it gives you a summary, and then if everything looks okay, you click submit. So yeah, essentially that's it. You'll get an email with a booking number. And if you realize you need to make changes or add items to your booking, as long as it's before the booking pickup time, you can make changes. So you just click into that link, go to your booking, and you can edit your booking. You can delete your booking. And if it's 3 hours before your return time, you can renew it. So it'll add another 24 hours as long as it's available. So I feel like the system gives you flexibility to reserve it when you need it, return it when you can. There is a 48-hour limit, so you can't book for longer than 48 hours, but it doesn't count, the closed hours, so it doesn't count the weekend. So you can book Friday and return Monday. That's fine. Any questions about that? I mean, I think if you haven't used it, it'll feel familiar, like a online shopping experience. I think that's basically it, Bernard. I just need to know if there are. So I just need to know if you want full refund, partial refund, whether it's equipment only or lab only. And in that list, I would need your name, UBIT name, and person number.
Cool.
Okay. If you don't have any questions, I'm done. I'll actually put my email in there. If you do think of questions, cl62@buffalo.edu. Questions? Otherwise, have a good semester. Yeah. I'm
Cool.
around if you have any.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Definitely won't be able to hear right now. Diesel truck outside. Okay, where were we? Oh, I got to share my screen. Boop, 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 boop. The one thing I will mention, I'm gonna close this window. I don't help too much, but one thing I will mention about the equipment, for those of you who are new, new to the scheme of things, it is pretty inexpensive. considering how much equipment costs to rent other places. Obviously, if you need something easy, you could always get it through the university, the library, but beyond that, like he mentioned the first class because I asked him. Squeaky Wheel is a media center in Buffalo. They also offer equipment rental as well. If you're a member, it's like $25 a year, I think, for students to be a member. And then equipment costs like per rental period, per piece of equipment. So, I mean, the value you're getting through the apartment here is pretty amazing. And the amount of equipment is pretty amazing as well. So if you are, a go-getter and you want to utilize that equipment to explore and learn things, then probably worth the fee. Yeah, so continuing where we left off here, I think the whole thing is we were selecting this face, yes. And so say if you mess up and you need to kind of alter that a bit, you don't need to redo the whole section. You could actually just select more and add that too. So all you need to do is hold the Shift key and then add in additional pieces, right? So to couple that, you don't even need to use the same selection tool. You could really use any selection tool and hold Shift and it'll add that. Or if you selected too much and you need to subtract less, you could hold Option and subtract parts of the selection. So main point here though is we're just trying to get a quick selection of this guy's head. And if you ever mess up, I don't know if I mentioned already, Command Z is going to be your best friend for this project. It's going to be a good habit to get in the, it's going to be good to get in the habit of just keeping your mouse on, keeping your right hand on the mouse pretty much all the time. And your left thumb could be on Command key. And then you're using your pointer finger to like use the commands. That's way easier than back and forth. You don't even have to look at the keyboard after you used keys enough times. Hence the whole purpose of like a shortcut, right? It's supposed to be shorter. So it does look silly to see people using like two hands to use a keyboard shortcut. So I would say don't be that person. Try to just learn the right way. But yeah, Command Z is going to be your undo go-to. I'll have some other ones I mention here as we go as well. Okay, so once we have the face selected, we want to remove everything else but the face. So if we currently have the face selected, we need to select everything else. And there's actually a quick shortcut for that, or a quick tool. It's under the Select menu, and it's selecting Inverse. So it'll just invert your selection. And so now if you zoom out far enough, you'll see the entire canvas has an outline and your previous selection. So it's between your previous and the outside, right? Everything else. So at this point, theoretically, you should only have to hit the delete key. However, if we hit the delete key, we have to be on that layer. For some reason, I deselected. You have to have that layer selected. If you hit delete, you should be getting this error message. And it's telling us that this image that we placed, the layer that we had selected, is a smart object. We cannot edit it. What does that mean? It means that it doesn't understand this image yet as pixels. It's still just referencing the file. And as we can see right here, it has not been yet rasterized. So this is just like a little preview showing you that it's not rasterized. All we need to do, again, like we did before, is right click on the name of the layer and rasterize layer. And not that I need to do this right now, but at one point I used a tool that made me flatten, and it's locked now, so I'm just going to unlock that. So now that this is rasterized, while it's selected, selected on the canvas and while you have it selected in the layer panel, now if we hit delete, everything else should be deleted and just the face remains. So the other thing that I want to point out here before you like get rid of the selection is that the selection that we made is not tied to that layer. The selection is its own entity that kind of can traverse layers, so you know, as you see fit. And one interesting thing about this is that, you know, you could like hide this face layer and you know, do something with that selection on the back. So one thing that I'm just going to show you an example. You guys don't have to follow this. I'm going to select back to insert. So I just have like the head selected. And I'm going to go to select and modify border. And I'm going to go 50 pixels. And now you can see that that border is wider than my head. And if I do select modify feather, which we could have done a feather. So I guess this is nice I'm showing you. A feathering smooths the edge out. So like before we just hit delete and that delete has like a sharp edge. If we went to select and feather, we could actually soften that edge however many pixels we want. So I'm going to say, I don't know, 15 or something. And now, since that selection is its own entity, I could select the background layer if I wanted. And I could adjust that. So say, I want to make that like stand out more. Have it be darker, or change the hue a bit so it's a little bit more recognizable. Right? And so no matter what you're doing, once you're done with whatever you're doing, you could go to select and then go to deselect. And deselect is going to remove those like ticking black and white lines, your actual selection lines on your canvas. And now if I turn this face back on, kind of looks like a drop shadow when it's not really a drop shadow. It's just like behind the head. So the reason I kind of went detour there for a second is to show you that just because you're selecting one object doesn't mean that you have to use that selection for that object on that layer. You know, you could use an object as a way to make a selection to then use somewhere else, you know? So that's kind of what I did there. I believe that's all we were covering for that tool. So the next thing, let's go ahead and save. And the next thing we're going to add is the rock tool, or not the rock tool, the rock image. I'm sorry. Rock. Place. And then we're going to just make that larger on the screen, and you could rotate it or scale it however you want. Does anybody have questions up until this point? I think the first class I just rambled on a little while, so I didn't get very far. I mean, I could almost finish the whole thing today with you guys, but I'd rather have both classes be on the same point. Makes it easier to plan. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, and I already mentioned the component about the pen tool, how we could use the pen tool instead, but avoiding that just because pen tool takes some time. So here's this rock, and we want to get that rock cut out from the background. Well, the previous image was like tons of randomness. It would be kind of hard to like just select all of the single color around the outside. Therefore, we kind of had to draw a line. Whereas here, this edge is pretty well defined, right, the whole way along. So there are a few different things we could try. Let's also bring in another image, and we're going to hide it, but place embedded. Heart. Okay. No. Let's place hand. Hand or heart, doesn't matter, I guess. Okay. And make this one larger. Okay. So as you see, if you click on different images, it'll actually switch to that image in the layer panel. In the past, it didn't do that. So it's kind of helping you out to some extent. But you could still mess up if you're not being aware of what you're doing. These two new things that we placed, we want to also rasterize them so that we can modify pixels. And I guess this is just a way to kind of expand upon what we're doing here without going further than other class got. I have no idea why the other class was so short. So we'll probably just end early today, a couple minutes early. If you guys click and hold on the lasso tool, and we're going to go to magnetic lasso tool. On this hand layer, we'll zoom in, and we'll use this magnetic lasso tool to help us select this hand from the black background. And as you can see up here, it does have a feather option. We don't really need it because it's pretty stark background cut. If anything, I guess we could add like a 2 pixel or something. So again, we're just gonna click on a place to start. However, we don't really ever need to click again. All you need to do is like drag your line along the edge of what you're trying to select. And there are a couple other preferences that you could adjust so that this is a little bit smoother. And at any one point, if you want it to be like making a point and it's not, you can just click. And so I think you get the gist of it pretty quickly. So I'm just going to go quick and finish it. And I guess the slower you go, the more detailed it's going to be. However, you know, you got to have patience as well. Ooh, I moved that. And you know, you can go back in and modify it with holding Shift or Option. Clean it up. Okay, and same thing. If we want to delete the background, we have to inverse our selection. So we just do or select, inverse, and then delete. And if we deselect, we can see that we have like that faint black. If you added a feather to that, you probably have like a faint black line around the hand. So that's kind of showing you how the feathering works, right? It keeps like a little bit of the black, but it adds transparency to it. So I wanted to go over like another way of using a selection, and then this will be like the third and last one we would cover for today, is the magic wand. And the magic wand you'll find using quite a bit, or at least I do. A lot of times I'll even, because it's so fast, I'll even find myself searching like Google for images that have a very stark background, like a strong contrast, just so that I don't have to edit as long. You know, it could take a couple of seconds and then I pull the subject out of the background. So we're going to try it here. And just like any tool, after we click on it, sorry if it's loud, my buddy's coming out of the driveway with his truck. Just like any tool, when we select it, we'll have more options along the top. The two main points that you're going to be focusing on for this Magic Wand tool are the tolerance and whether or not your pixels are continuing from the original point that you click on. So I used to call this continuous, being ignorant of, you know, reading. And it kind of works that way. So like if I click just this little, oh, that brings me to another point. I'm not even on the rock layer. So it's selecting something based on the hand. And yeah, and anytime you do make a selection that you don't need, you could just click again to deselect, you know. You don't have to go to the menu every time. So while you're on the rock layer, if you were to click that little pink spot right there with contiguous on, you'll notice it's only selecting similar colors of pink right next to it because it's kind of outlined in a darker pink. Well, what if you wanted to select like all of the pink pixels of that particular color? Well, you would have to have contiguous off, meaning it's going to select everything on this layer that has a tolerance of 32 to that color of pixel, which would select all of that. And so maybe whatever you're going for, maybe that's the effect you want, right? Maybe you want it to be kind of outlined like that. this is why it's important to understand the different types of selection tools, because these are going to allow you to extract content from images, while also selecting different, components of that content and manipulate them in a different way. So I'm just showing you how this contiguous works. In reality, we want to select this black background. So if we click here with contiguous off, we're going to get the middle of the rock, and we don't want that. So we do want contiguous on to select the background. And if you have 32 on by default, which is the standard default it comes with, it'll look like this about if you click on the top, which isn't all of the background, but you will notice that it's not selecting the rock, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for. We could either change the tolerance and try again, or we could just hold the shift key and add another selection. And in reality, it should take about 4 clicks to get the whole thing. And then there's, for me, I don't know if it'll be the same for you, there's a little bit of crap here on the right. If I hold shift and click there, it'll clean it up. So it's not a perfect system, right? It's based on a color. And if your color inside versus outside is similar, you might get some overlap like this. So in that case, again, you would just pick a different selection tool and come in and use like your option and select it, and there you go. So once that's selected, you can go ahead and delete, and now we have this rock. Anybody have questions with these different selection tools? I mean, by this point, I did the same thing the first class. I'm kind of going along at, almost like neutral speed, kind of fast, not really fast. But I want to make sure anybody that's having questions shouts out, because it's way easier to like get an understanding of it now, so you have it to work with, rather than having it be a mystery for like a week. Trying to think what else we could cover without going too far. Well, I guess since nobody has questions of what we've done so far, does anybody have questions on Photoshop in general, or things that they're hoping to like achieve with Photoshop? Nobody wants to achieve anything. That's the spirit. I don't know if I want to keep going. Then I always confuse like which class did what unless I take notes and blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is technically still part of step 6 here. So blending modes, we can just briefly talk about that. We'll go into more detail, obviously, on Wednesday. So with this rock layer selected, if you just simply look here at the top of your layer panel where it says normal, this is actually your layer blending mode. Normal means like it's just showing up how it normally should as you brought it in. However, if we click that drop down, we have a ton of different options. And these are all different ways in which we're blending the layer into the layer behind it. And so we can get some pretty sweet effects just by like moving our finger up and down, you know, on a mouse pad. It's pretty sweet. That one looks pretty sweet. And then I guess while we're here at this breakpoint, I think that it could be helpful just to kind of zoom in here at a couple other things that I guess I normally don't talk about. There is the option to just delete an entire layer. You have the option of adding a layer. However, I don't really ever remember clicking on this. Like if you import an image, it creates a new layer, right? Like everything is always generating on its own. But the other thing I don't think I mentioned for this class, I did on the first class for sure, is that if you right click on the name of one of these layers, you're gonna get different options than you would if you were to right click on the thumbnail. So usually when you're trying to find something, you always want to just right click on this, on the name. And there are different things you can do that could be helpful. Like right now, if you right click on one of them, you'll see we already rasterized. But what's grayed out is like linking layers. Group from layers. So I don't know where I was going with that. What I was trying to show you is that you could like hold shift and select multiple layers, and then you could combine, where is it? Merge layers, right? And those two that you have selected would be combined into one layer. Obviously don't need that. I'm just showing you the capabilities. Up in the top right, see this little like menu tab? If you have a menu tab on every window, you know, no matter like if it's out here or if it's over there. And every menu tab has additional info on it. So for here in the layers panel, this is giving you information on the layer itself. And sometimes you'll find additional stuff here that you wouldn't normally find with just a right click. So it's kind of worth bringing up. I try not to go over too many of these kind of like, you know, not hidden features, but maybe like unnecessary things. You know, it's helpful for some of you that are already kind of savvy and wanting some more content. The thing I can cover too, which I should, I guess, cover right off the beginning, is I've been mentioning like Command Z is undo, you know, so like if I draw this square, this rectangle, I'm like, oh, I don't want that. I Command Z, right, undo. And you can keep hitting Command Z to keep undoing. Or you could do a redo, which is shift Command Z. So it's like you can go forward in time or you can go back in time. And as I'm doing that, you can kind of look at the history, like I'm going back, going forward. So you don't necessarily have to use shortcuts. You could, if you're a more visual person, you could use the history panel to like show you what you've done. And you would just click back to that point, right? But the history doesn't save everything It goes back until like your last save usually. So like if I were to save it now, and exit and come back, I don't think that stuff saves. Maybe it does, but it also is limited to a certain number of history actions. So, you know, you can't work on this for like 4 months and then go back to something you did the first day. So I guess, well, actually, with that being said, in terms of you're limited on history, another thing to really be aware of is that you could always just create duplicate layers. So for instance, like I have this rock here, right? And it's blended right now, but I could right click on the name and duplicate a layer, rock copy. And that rock copy, I could hide it and just have it for reference, which I highly recommend for a lot of stuff you guys do, especially when you're taking a chance and you don't know if whatever wormhole you go down is going to be a good one. You know, like even to that point, like when you guys were playing around with filters at the beginning, like you never realized you probably were going to get an image that looked like whatever you have for your background, right? And maybe that's not what you want ideally. So, you know, building in like safety nets for yourself to kind of fall back on is always helpful. So not only can you save a layer, you know, duplicate a layer and hide it and just kind of like keep it there for reference, but you could also like just duplicate layers and then use them as additional content, right? Nobody's stopping you. And so that's like a really quick way to, you know, expand on the content you already have. So yeah, not only can you be dealing with these transparent options, or not transparent, layer blending options, we have this opacity option as well, where we could tone down how much of that we see through. So yeah, I guess for just a couple minutes here, why don't you guys just play around with like the content we have on the screen. Try some duplication, try some more layer blending with these different pieces that we have on the screen. Try some opacities. Any other questions for today? Man, nobody's got questions. Give me some questions.
My question is, are we uploading this like at the end of next class? Are we like sending this somewhere to be graded, or is it just like an exercise?
It's just an exercise realistically. In the past, I used to collect them because like I was new to teaching, and actually now I'm going to start preparing my own like portfolio of, you know, student work to apply for some other teaching gigs. So these aren't like anything crazy. These are just like doodles. But if anybody does make something by the end of next class, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, it'd be great for you. I put a folder in the Google Drive for this semester. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just nothing big, but it's always nice to have cool stuff to check out. Yeah, and then next class, is anybody interested in like an overview of Mac? Like the Mac interface? Or is it, everybody's got a pretty good handle on it? The one thing that I will mention, because a lot of people don't know this, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I could cover, but every application on a Mac has a help menu tab. And as far as I know, this is still not an option on Windows. So you really should utilize this whenever you get lost. So say like, oh, you know what? I want to transform this face layer. I don't remember how to transform it, right? Well, you can literally just go to help and you type it in. And it'll show you where it's at. So this is pretty powerful, considering it works on every program. So it's definitely one to like, you know, jot down as a note or somehow remember. Because when you're working on your own, you're gonna like forget how to do things, or, you know, you might want to be like, oh, I want to do this, and I don't even know how to do this. This is a quick way. Instead, before you just start Googling random stuff, like this could be a lot faster. So yeah, reminder that there is that quiz that you need to complete by midnight. You'll have to take it on a computer, have a webcam. So just keep that in mind, so you don't try to like get on your phone or something. I don't even know if you could take it on your phone regardless, but just kind of be aware. And Wednesday, there'll be a quiz as well. So sorry for back-to-back, but then we'll be caught up. And continue gathering content. So especially if you haven't gotten anything yet, I mean, number one, like your concept should be finalized at this point. You should have like a general idea of what type of content you're getting, right? Like, are you getting stuff all from the 80s? Like, I don't know, like how about a 90s TV commercial content only? Or, you know, if you kind of isolate what type of content you're getting, it can be a little more challenging finding stuff, but it often is more rewarding when you come to the final piece, because it's more authentic, feels more authentic. So yeah, finding content alone is pretty good step to make sure you're following through with. And on Wednesday, I'll cover scanning demo for those of you who have a scanner. It'll only take a few minutes, but then you play around with that. And then it'll just be a work session. And so the thing I want to point out too is that for work sessions, I expect everybody to come to class like actually working on said project. That's the point of having us meet. So you shouldn't be relying on that time to like do extensive research or extensive, finding content. You should all be in class, like working on the project with that stuff you've already prepped. That's like your homework, right? That way, anybody that has problems, I'm always here. You're actually using my help. You're getting your money's worth, extracting my knowledge. But also, then if I'm, not busy with somebody and it's a work session, why would I sit here and do nothing when I could be like, oh, hey, do you want to show me what you're working on? I always find myself asking that question during a lot of semesters, and students will be like, oh, I'm gathering images right now, so I don't have anything ready. And it's like, well, why? You're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So hopefully everybody comes to class with some stuff, so that when we finish our tutorial, you could dive in and start manipulating content, and then I can come around and help people out. So if nobody has questions, I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this was back when before when Carl was mentioning waiving the fee for labs. I'm currently enrolled in 3 labs, and I do know that lab fees are only taken from the 2 most expensive labs. I'm unsure of which of the 2 labs my fee is going to be charged, but I do want to opt into dropping the fee if the email is going to be sent in for this class.
Yeah, so by default, everybody has the fees dropped.
Realistically, do not be needing anything from the equipment room or the computer lab.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think I just dropped when I replied to you. By default, everybody is going to have that refunded for this class.
Okay.
It's only if you are requesting one of them, then I'd add you to a list. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
you should be good. And then, as Carl mentioned, this past wave, I think he mentioned it. This class, when before the semester started, he already put in that refund to be put through, and it didn't get put through, even though he put it in before the deadline. So that being said, he already said that he's going to resubmit it and it should be fine. But even past that point, like, past the point of like, it should be fine. If it still comes up weird on people's accounts, like maybe you get charged for all of them and you weren't supposed to, you could always contact Carl at that point. Cause they could be tweaked at any point during the semester. But there'll just be like this rough period until everything gets reorganized is all.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
You as well. Thanks.